We're off to a little bit of a tardy start, but no worries. We are here, sponsored by Login. Login Business for all of your business needs for telephone, internet, and data recovery and co-location. So, Risk Ruckus is designed to help convey about how to reduce your cyber risk, build better documentation, and more effectively communicate about cyber risk and your business. Every service that your business subscribes to adds a level of risk where compromise can happen. So, what's important when we're talking about risk and data is understanding what services are doing what for your business and how those services are configured, how they could be exploited by a malicious actor, and how you can ensure to restore those services if they are compromised or impacted by an external event, malware. Um, so many different ways that services can be impacted. Misconfigurations are a leading cause of problems in the industry. And what causes misconfigurations are people misunderstanding how to use computer systems and how to appropriately configure them. So, for example, you've got an organization and you have users subscribed to your mail address and you change some settings in your DMARC, you could potentially impact how well those services or emails are delivered to your customers. So it's really important that we take the time to appropriately configure those systems and effectively ensure that the people who are administering those systems understand how to make those administrative changes, and anybody who's using the systems knows how to report when something that is unexpected or irregular is occurring. So we're going to take a little bit of a detour this week, and we're going to talk about journeys. Uh, and this is really important for cybersecurity. And I know it seems that maybe why would we talk about a customer journey, but it is part of your cybersecurity, and we have to understand how the business functions. So we've got this great presentation over here, where what we're talking about is what is your customer base hiring you to do, right? What job are they asking you to do? And when they learn about the job, right, they're going to be in a discovery phase. They're going to be searching for things. When we talk about cybersecurity and configurations, we need to make sure that when somebody uses a search tool, Google, ChatGPT, Bing, right, social media, that they learn how to discover your service to alleviate that pain that your organization provides. And we want to let them learn about how your organization works, decide, and plan. So, this is that first level of a circle, right? And this is also what a malicious actor is going to be doing for your organization as well. I'm coming back. Okay. Um, so a malicious actor is going to be looking for what job they can do inside your network, right? And they're going to be doing that discovery. They're going to learn about your business. They're going to decide how to attack you and impact, right? So there's two sides of the same coin about a client or a malicious actor, and we have to be cognizant of how that works. So once we do that, we're going to have that customer who wants to purchase, right? They're going to decide they're going to purchase, and then they need to set up. Now, this is really imperative for whatever service you've got, right? Because you're going to be configuring your service for your clients. This is really important to get right to ensure your logging, monitoring, alerting, your account management. This is imperative for anybody who's in the SaaS space. And after you go from setup, right, you want to know how they're going to access your systems, if they could introduce a vulnerability in the way they access your system, and then they're going to start to use it. Now, this is important because if somebody uses a system incorrectly, an unexpected error can cause a problem. So, your environment or service or software should be tested for, user inputs, and make sure that users can't crash or compromise the system when they're using it. And then we're going to end up with modifications. Now, in another video, we talked about how the design space is different than the user model. So this is where that comes in, right? We'll have modifications to the system. It'll be custom to those environments. It'll be custom to that user. They might have different linguistics about how your service works inside their company. And that's okay, but it's important to understand your customer base so that when they make those modifications, they can more effectively use your service. And that takes us back to the next ring of the circle, right? Modification is probably going to lead to a user upgrading the services that they're subscribing to from your business. So, what are we talking about here, right? Maybe they're asking for a new service. Maybe they're asking for a new configuration. The upgrade is hopefully going to drive them into renewal. And we also have to account for user churn, right? Users will leave your service, but when they do, right, you want to make sure that after they leave, they have the opportunity to return. And what do you want to offer people who are returning to your organization, right? You want to offer them the ability to learn, discover, decide, and plan about how to use your service. All of this integrates to cybersecurity because when you're using a computer system to deliver a service, you have to make sure that your clients know how to use the service effectively, how what jobs it fills for them, and how you're delivering that service. So we talked a little bit about journeys, and I know it seems weird for cybersecurity, but your user journey is the same path a malicious actor is going to look for to compromise on. And when we talk about how to start integrating these plans, right? You can't you can't do a lot in one day, but you can do a lot by doing a little bit each day for an extended period of time. And that's where we're going to build better product statements. We're going to more effectively increase the performance of our organization. And we're going to come back up here and we're really going to have an idea about my favorite chart here. Let's just see. We have no other comments. So we've got malicious cyber actors, right? We want to make sure we deter their efforts so they abandon them. We want to protect our data to prevent it from compromise. We need to be able to detect them in our network. So we need to have actions and controls and a register so that we can adapt. Without these components and this database being structured, you'll have a difficult time convincing anybody in your C suite so that you need to make an improvement to your organization. So, with those malicious cyber actors and everything that they're doing, right, we also need to consider our network infrastructure. So, what does that really look like, right? Our network infrastructure should have external components. And what am I talking about here? This should be a demilitarized zone, right? And it should have a border firewall. And then we should have another DMZ where we're doing our business to client, right? Our VPNs are terminating in this zone. And then we want a zone for enterprise services, right? We want protected clients and servers, and we want to be able to offer enhanced servers and protections in this zone. We want to have secure firewalls, load balancers, and layers 4 through 7 inspection on the enterprise, confidential, and privileged systems. So when we talk about defense in depth, it looks like this, right? We want our SaaS in the outside of our network. We want our customers on the outside. We want our partner networks external. And this will make it harder for a malicious actor who's trying to get through your network and compromise some stuff, right? It's harder every time that they have a transition to then get into these services. If you've been watching some of the items related to like Clop ransomware, right? That can be exploited without having access to that system. So it's really important to make sure that that exploit does not create a lot of damage if it does happen. So with those components, right, we've talked about our customer journey, but I'm going to talk about a little bit about how you should be processing your intelligence, right? How can you synthesize and process your intelligence? How can you get people to better understand it, right? You want to have your organization, right? You've got question pools that are going to drive your assessments, and that's going to build your risk register. Your risk register should be a living document, and we're going to pull up a risk register real quick to share that, to really have a good understanding about how to quantify risk and understand who's responsible, accountable, consulted, or even informed about it. So we're going to pull that up, and we're going to take a new journey into what that actually looks like. So when you have a business and you're trying to um, understand the risks that that business has, you need some way to quantify, qualify, extrapolate that information, and you want that to be effective. The less effective you are at conveying that, the less likely you are to really get people to understand what you're doing and how to get their buy-in. So we're going to enter a new screen, and we're going to come over here. All right, what we've got here are our controls, and these are sorted right by status. So we have 51 selected controls, we have 13 validated, and one inconclusive. So this means maybe our auditor is behind on something, or we don't have enough information to really make a good understanding of it. So we have the primary control number. Now, some exciting things that we can do here is we can also identify secondary controls that are to be considered. This is imperative when we're building a system, right? We talked a lot about these proactive and detective actions and controls, but sometimes when you set a control, right, there might be a secondary dependency. So what does that look like? Security and privacy attributes for this doesn't have a secondary control, but access control for mobile devices has over 20. So when we do this, we understand that these controls should also be considered, and we can dive into what they are. So what is AC18? Let's find out what it is. So as this pulls up, right, we can see it's part of access control. It's part of least privilege. It's part of information flow. It's part of account management, wireless access. So when we start to see this, it expands our thinking about how we should talk about our responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed, and how the control is developed, and the secondary dependencies that exist here, right? We have the discussion questions, so we can generate that, and we can dive in and really have a comprehensive understanding. Additionally, if we were working with this file right here, right, we could share documents from our computer or any popular cloud-based system. We have our status, our priority, we have our requirements, our design, and this is imperative when you're building a control framework, because if you exclude these things, right, we don't have a way to do our implementation. We don't have our project timeline. It makes it difficult to actually secure the business. The things that are missing in control and placement is the plan to install, operate, maintain, defend, and engineer those controls. We have a unique item ID that lets us search this and cross-reference it across the rest of our organization. And we've also identified that our exception is in discovery. We're asking questions, we're doing interviews, right? We see the impacted groups for the cybersecurity framework. And then we also have our impacts to the process, our visibility, alerting, detection, telemetry, signals, components, spans. And this is the best part. We understand who's responsible for the control, and we can understand more about what that team is working on. So our responsible team, a network operations specialist, has been working on this project, and we can see what they're doing. We can check on their progress, the impact, and we could even send an alert to this team if it were something urgent. So this lets us communicate at scale with the people who are working on projects, right? Additionally, if we wanted to know how our networks operations specialist was working on this project, we have those same understandings of what they're doing, how they're doing. We can send that alert, and we can really make an effective um, understanding of what they're working on. Additionally, who's accountable for something, right? Our IT investment and portfolio manager. We have their work role ID, their work role description, and we can assign people to this role. Again, we could send that alert. Over on this side, we have automations to log anytime an exception is generated for a control. So now when we look historically at the emplacement of a control, we can also understand what time there was an exception and if a malicious actor took advantage of our security controls being out of place, right? Because we made an exception for a group. Let's see if there's any comments over here. We don't have any comments, so we're going to keep going. Let me see if there's anything else. We've got about 5 more minutes. I'm sorry for the late start today, um, but that doesn't mean that we can't continue with this. So we've identified um, how to really talk about and in place a security control. If you've been watching my videos, we've been talking about scoping sensitive data, and I would encourage you to go and view those videos, look inside your organization about how you process sensitive data and the components that you're considering when you are processing sensitive data for your clients. So additionally, what we could do here is we can go to this dashboard and we can start to understand more about what our business is doing. Here we have the controls that are empty. These controls haven't been set. Additionally, we can sort by a variety uh, of other situations. So instead of telemetry, we can say, I want to group all of our controls by priority. Here we go. I want to group my controls by status. We've got that. If you wanted to understand exceptions for controls across your business, we can see that and we can label them by name or the control number or the status of the control. So this control here that we see is grouped by if there was an exception required, which is yes, and this control is inconclusive. When you are reverse engineering and talking about something, this is a control that could have been compromised by a malicious actor. What do I mean by that? Again, we've got these malicious cyber activities here coming across, and they might get through one of these blocks, and that's how we know that we need to adapt with what we've been doing. So that is a look about selecting and managing security controls. It's really important to have a plan that identifies how security controls are managed inside of your company, how they are created, and how they're monitored. Just using tools isn't enough to actually secure your business and effectively uh, protect and communicate it, right? Having a living risk register that identifies, quantifies, and qualifies all of your business assets, how important they are, and the restoration procedures is imperative for organizations to be successful after a malicious cyber attack happens. So, we're coming up to the end of Risk Ruckus. We're going to come back next week, and I want to give special thanks to loginbusiness.com, Tucson Business Internet, Voice over IP, co-location, networking, and data and cloud services. So thanks to loginbusiness.com for supporting Risk Ruckus, and we look forward to seeing you again